Cannabis Common Sense, the show that tells the truth about marijuana and the politics behind its prohibition.
Hello and welcome to another exciting edition of Cannabis Common Sense. We have a great show for you tonight. Mr. Tim Pate is here to provide some music along with some interesting photographs. He'll be joining us to take your calls in just a little bit too. And we have some film clips we'll be showing you. It's quite an assortment of medicinal cannabis bottles are available for our show and tell segment this evening. And some hemp products too. So stay tuned and we'll be back in just a minute after you see the infamous dancing cannabis leaves. Here they come. All right, tonight's first story is from the Farm and Ranch Guide. You know, I think this is the first story we've ever read on this show from the Farm and Ranch Guide. It's written by Sue Rosler from Bismarck, North Dakota. Two farmers licensed to grow hemp in North Dakota filed a lawsuit in federal court this week attempting to keep the Drug Enforcement Administration, or DEA, from charging them with a crime after they put the seed in the ground. North Dakota Representative David Monson, a legislator and wheat, barley, canola, and soybean grower in northeast North Dakota, and Wayne Hodge, a barley, durum, pea, lentil, black beans, and chickpea grower in northwest North Dakota, filed the lawsuit that's being paid for by an organization called Vote Hemp. Vote Hemp is a national nonprofit organization that seeks to help U.S. farmers grow hemp for economical benefits. The lawsuit basically asks the DEA to do nothing to farmers who grow hemp, says attorney Tim Purdon with the Bismarck law firm that's representing the farmers in the legal action. Burden, the attorney, said, quote, "We want the DEA to do basically nothing. We're seeking a declaration of judgment that says the DEA shall not prosecute licensed hemp farmers in North Dakota. It's the same thing, nothing, that the DEA has done for the last 10 years, end quote. According to Vote Hemp attorney Joe Sandler, the lawsuit is a formal effort in the DEA's obstruction of commercial hemp farming in the United States. While the lawsuit doesn't help farmers with planting hemp this year, the courts could answer quickly or not. The DEA has 60 days to respond to the lawsuit. Roger Johnson, North Dakota Agriculture Commissioner, said the farmers had no choice in filing the lawsuit since the DEA has not issued them a license. The DEA sent a letter back requesting more information from the farmers after they applied for licenses, but since then have taken no action. In the past, North Dakota's legislature, the state became the first in the union to put a law in its books saying farmers have no longer have to obtain a license from the DEA to grow hemp. Johnson, however, was afraid if the lawsuit was not filed, the DEA would attempt to prosecute the farmers with a felony anyway after they planted hemp. Sandler said the DEA has no jurisdiction over hemp anyway. The intent of Congress initially was to separate hemp from marijuana since hemp had been grown in the country for decades before the DEA became an agency. According to Sandler, he says, quote, "It was the intent of Congress to keep hemp stock, fiber, seed, and oil exempt from drug laws. Hemp falls under the commerce laws," end quote. The two farmers give much the same reasons for wanting to grow hemp on their farms: economical profits above current crops and cheaper inputs to grow it. Monson said the profit margin for hemp is far and above what wheat and barley bring in. On his farm, his inputs have grown, and if he gets 70 bushels to the acre, his gross is about $200 for barley and slightly more for spring wheat. So that's a story from the Farm Guide there, the Farm and Ranch Guide by Sue Rosler that just came out this week. And the DEA a few years back raised the license fee for filing for industrial hemp. The fee used to be $50 for a farmer to file, and they'd always turn those things down. But recently they increased that fine about 8 years ago to $3,000. So now it's impossible for farmers to basically even apply for that permit. So the state of North Dakota has said you don't need a DEA license in North Dakota to plant industrial hemp. You just need a state license, and we'll see how that lands in the federal courts here sometime in the near future. Also this week in Connecticut, the Governor Ryle, he vetoed the bill for medical marijuana, and that's going to stop that bill from going into effect. We'll see if the legislature has enough votes to overturn that. And that's all the hemp news we have this week. It's a little light on the news, but we do have Mr. Tim Pate standing by in the wings, ready to entertain us. How are you doing this week, Tim?
I'm doing really well. How are you tonight, Paul?
Very well, very well.
Cool.
Good. So you've got some music tonight?
Well, I think I might as well.
All right.
It's summertime. We should have some music.
All right.
And it's not quite harvest time outside, so the name of the song is called Patience Waiting. It's from my second album. So.
All right. All right. That was good, Tim. Nice song.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. We are taking your phone calls tonight. If you're watching on the 22nd, the second day of summer, 22nd of June, 2007, call us at that number there on your screen. It's 503-288-4448. And we do have a phone caller. Hello, caller. You're on the show. We need just a little bit more sound.
Hello? Wait, I'm sorry. Are you there? Hello?
Hello?
Are you there?
Yep.
Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Okay, I was just calling about different strains of medicine and how you know which ones work best for which kind of illness. And I was wondering if there's any way we could try to focus in on people that are in muscular pain.
Sure. For pain, it's really not, there are different strains that have different effects when smoked, when vaporized, when taken orally. And the same strain can have different effects if harvested at different times. But for pain, and for neuropathic pain and pain of all sorts, and also for spasms and seizures and glaucoma, it's not really the THC part of the cannabis that's the medicinal agent. It's the CBD. And CBD is found throughout the plant. However, it has to be cooked at a low temperature to activate it. If you don't cook it, and that's called decarboxylation, it strips the... Huh?
I'm sorry. I'm trying to get help with the TV. Oh. Okay, go ahead.
But what it does is, if you cook it at a low heat, or if it's vaporized,
turn it down.
Yeah, turn your TV down. You won't have any feedback, and there's a delay there too, so it'll confuse you. Don't be confused by that. But basically, you have to take the cannabis and cook it at a low heat, and then you can take it orally. Now, if you want the psychoactive effects from the THC, which also is an appetite stimulant, and THC lowers nausea. THC is also useful for depression, for PTSD, and some other psychiatric conditions that are only covered under California's medical marijuana law that aren't allowed in other states that allow medical marijuana. But that's what the THC is for, and it's mainly in the flowers. But the other compound, CBD, is found throughout the plant. And so if you make something out of the leaf, you won't get the psychoactive effect or as much relief from nausea or appetite stimulant, but you will get the relief from the pain. But first, like I said, you have to take either the leaf or flower and cook it at a low heat, about 220, 250 degrees, for 45 minutes if you're baking it. And you can grind it up before or after you bake it, and then mix it in with brownies or cookies, or you can make it into capsules. And or if you want, you can actually just put it right into the butter or oil and steep it in there for quite a while, and then sift it out. And the active ingredients are oil soluble, so they're in butter or oil, and you can use that as you would in making any other dish. But believe me, for pain, spasms, and seizures, taking cannabis orally is going to work much, much better. And if you don't want the psychoactive effect, a lot of people don't, or some people who do want it sometimes don't want it other times, then you would want to use the leaf. And the leaf has just as much CBD in it as the flowers do. Okay. So I hope that helps.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. Oh, is there any way I can come and be on the show?
Yeah, just come on down. In fact, we have a studio audience, so if you don't want to be on the show but you want to come watch it, I guess how many people are over there tonight? About 20 or 15? I don't know. And just come on down any week. And we're down here almost every Friday night, though there are a few Fridays in the month of July that we won't be here because of the 4th of July and various vacations. But usually we're down here every Friday night. And you can come in about 7:30 to 7:45. The show's live at 8 o'clock. And we're at 2755 Northeast MLK, or Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard.
Okay. All right. Well, this is Erica De Silva. If I could get a call back later, I'd appreciate it.
Okay. I will do that, Erica. I've been out of town. I'll talk to you soon.
I understand. You guys are doing a great job, and keep up the work. And now I understand what you're talking about by cooking it.
Yeah. What it does is it strips the carbon dioxide molecule off of it, and that makes it medicinally active. It's not medicinally active until that decarboxylation happens.
Oh, okay.
Now you can use it after it's been vaporized because the vaporization process does that too.
Yeah, I really want to invest in a vaporizer, but I haven't been able to get it up enough money. But as soon as I can, I think I've tried that, and I think that is the most medicinal way for me in my muscle contractions and everything. I think that works the best for my condition.
Okay.
Okay.
That's definitely the thing to do. I'll talk to you soon, Erica. Thanks for calling.
Bye-bye. Have a good afternoon.
If you're out there and you have a question for us, call us at 503-288-4448. How are you doing, Tim?
I'm doing really well.
Good.
Interesting week. A lot of things are happening.
Yeah.
I know that in this state there's been some news about an attempt to try and do away with OMA.
Yeah, Kevin Mannix, Republican gubernatorial candidate, past
Who lost, by the
Attorney
way.
General. Yeah, he lost that race.
He lost the other one too.
Yeah, he's lost several races.
Yes, he
on
has.
behalf. And he lost first as a Democrat.
Yes.
And then he decided to become a Republican, and now he's lost a few for the Republicans too.
Well, I hope
he won initiatives before he ever ran for public office. He did win state representative down in the Salem area, and that's about the only real office he's held. But he also put forward Measure 11 back about 10 years ago that enhanced violent crime imprisonment here in Oregon. It's basically been responsible for a doubling of the prison population in Oregon, and the fact over the past dozen years we've had to build numerous new prisons across the state. We can thank Kevin Mannix for that. But now Mannix wants to repeal the Oregon medical marijuana law. He has a bill out there that he's introduced as an initiative that does a lot of things, but one of the things it would do would repeal the Oregon medical marijuana law and mandate that the state pay for Marinol instead of, or have patients grow their own organic cannabis. So that's another thing we're going to have to oppose out there.
I don't see that happening, to be honest
I don't
with
think
you.
so. We have massive public support.
I actually got to read that proposal this week, the initiative that he's wanting to do, and if I'm not mistaken, the state Constitution would not allow what he's trying to put forward because it has too many different issues involved. Usually you have to have a single issue in any state initiative petition like that. So I'm hoping that whatever happens with this
that's
is
the
gonna
first
fall apart.
step. In fact, they have to issue a ballot title, and then the individual can challenge it to the Supreme Court that it doesn't meet the one issue. That's
I certainly hope we get the chance to challenge that. If nobody else will, I should.
Oh, I bet there's going to be a lot of us.
I hope so.
We have another caller, though. Hello, caller. You're on the show.
Hi. I was given a bottle of oil, and do you have to cook it to make it work, or can you take it without cooking it?
Well, if the oil has extracted the cannabis in a cooking process, for instance, it's cooked in a crock pot while the extraction is taking place, then it's already been decarboxylated, I guess you'd say. But and it's had that carbon dioxide molecule stripped off.
I know it's used for brownies, but I'm wondering how
if you cook it in brownies, that's going to cook it right there anyway. So
how long do you have to heat it to activate it?
I think it's about 30 to 45 minutes.
You mean you couldn't take like a shot glass of it, put it in the micro, activate it, and drink it?
No, the microwave is going to overheat it, and you're going to vaporize off most of the active ingredients.
So
what you want to do is, you can't take green leaf either. You've got to cure it and let it cure first for about a week after you trim it off. Then you have to cook it. You can put it in a vaporizer, and that also does the same thing.
Or dip it in cigarettes like you used to in the old days, same thing?
Well, yeah, you can put it in cigarettes and smoke it. There's no doubt about that.
Right. Okay.
You'll get a good dose of CBD from a leaf like that. Won't really get you high if you're using that, but use the flowers, it'll do both.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. The disadvantage with smoking, of course, is you get a lot of byproducts. Not that
That's right,
I can
carbon
say
monoxide.
I used to do that, and about 85% of what you inhale isn't medicine. Where when you vaporize it, 98% of what you do inhale is medicine.
Which explains the growing popularity of that.
Yeah.
And the medicinal use of it. Makes sense.
The best thing is you don't cough. And it doesn't smell like cannabis either. It doesn't. People can walk in and they won't smell it if it's going into a bag.
One thing I found out that was, to me, I found interesting this week was that there's over 16,800 current
cardholders
here in Oregon. Over 16,800. And over 2,000
about 8,000
doctors.
2,500 doctors.
Yeah.
2,500 doctors have recommended medical marijuana in the state of Oregon. That's out of a total base of about 7,000 doctors. So we can safely say that one out of three doctors has recommended medical marijuana in this state now. That's a huge leap forward.
Yes, it is.
That's an education campaign for doctors across the state that they recognize the efficacy of medical marijuana.
I would think, too, that the patients themselves have been doing a good job because they're the ones I'm the one who has to face my doctor and say, I need this. And if I'm able to go to a doctor who has experience with that, and he looks at me and he understands that, that's another doctor on our list.
That's true.
And I'm very excited when I see that there's over 2,500 doctors in the state of
When
Oregon
you
who have done
look
that.
down into the state of California, there are about 30 doctors across the state who specialize in cannabis.
Yeah.
They estimate that there are at least 200, maybe 350,000 permit holders in the state of California.
That's a huge number.
It is, and 30 doctors who just specialize in that and nothing else, basically.
Those are busy
Here in
doctors.
Oregon, we only have about 4 or 5 doctors like that.
That specialize,
Yeah.
you know, specifically, but there's so many other doctors who are capable and willing to do it.
That's
and
right.
that's good news if you're looking for a doctor and you haven't found one yet.
Or if you don't want
we have
it to
doctors.
be in your main medical records. That's
Right.
the other thing. A lot of people don't want medical marijuana to be in their main records for employment purposes or any other reason.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the cannabis specialists really perform a service in that their records are completely confidential.
No, it goes between them and their doctor and the Department of Health and Public Services.
Exactly. We do have another caller. Hello, caller. You're on the show.
Hello. First of all, we were concerned about Don DePay and where he's been.
Well, you know, Don is doing real well. He's here in town. He's kind of blazing new territory, you might say. He's out there. He's just not on the show right now, and there's some reasons for that. You know, he was on our show and talked about how the DEA had attempted to subpoena his records in addition to 13 other patients' records. And so there's some sort of federal investigation going on there. And he's on the cutting edge trying to help patients across the state. He's still doing some good work. And he's got a full-page ad in our next Hemp News magazine. But our lawyers have asked him, given the situation with the federal subpoena, that he not come on and talk about that for the time being. And also, the ACLU has come in and filed a motion to quash the subpoenas, and things are looking really good on that front. Only 14 patients out of 18,000 patients at this clinic have had this subpoena put on them. It all revolved around one particular patient caregiver situation. And so Don was peripherally brought into that, and his records were also subpoenaed. And so the lawyers have asked him to kind of keep a low profile until that reaches its fruition.
It was a pretty amazing story.
Yeah.
Also, I would like to know your recommendation of measurement ratio between the leaf and oil when you're cooking in the crock pot.
You know, I would say per cup of oil, a half to a full ounce of leaf, dried.
Okay.
And then I would cook it at lowest heat for about an hour and a half. You can do it longer, but an hour and a half will be long enough.
Long enough.
And you
then,
can strain out the vegetable matter, and all the active ingredients are now in the oil or butter.
And it won't be cooked out then when you add that to the brownies or cookies?
That's right. You want to cook them on as low a temperature as possible. But really, the CBD does not vaporize as easily as the THC does.
So once the extraction's in the oil, then you can use that oil in cooking something else.
That's right. It also can be applied topically, and some is absorbed right through your skin.
Okay.
In fact, I have a lot of traditional topical medicines. One of them right here is from the 1880s. This is a printed canister that still has the medicine inside it, and it was applied topically to your skin for rashes and for warts and corns and a lot of different ailments. Up until cannabis prohibition was instituted in 1930, there were hundreds of different topical medicines made with cannabis out there. And so,
Like a liniment.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for your help.
you're welcome. You're welcome.
You got quite a few new bottles this week.
We've got a lot of them out here. These aren't all new. There's actually only 2 new ones.
Which
and
is the new ones?
These ones right here. Let's go ahead and start down on this end, Sylvia. Let's see. The new ones are these 2. And the neat thing about this one is this one's just almost full of this cannabis tincture. And here's one. This one's probably a 1920s one, and this is a 1930s one. Both of these are Lloyd medicines, specific medicines. And they have two different types of tops. This one from the 20s has a cork top that's broken off in there, which helps explain why it never did get emptied out. And this one has a screw top with the embossed company logo there on it from the 1930s, but the labels are identical. The bottles are an identical size. This one is green, though, where this one is a clear bottle. Now, both of these medicines here are full as well. These are a chocolate-coated cannabis extract pill. Now, this is a very small, teeny tiny bottle, but they recommend you just taking one or two of these teeny tiny pills of pure cannabis indica extract, which is basically hashish, and that was the medicinal dose. This one's also full. This is from the 1890s. It's got these little purple pills in the bottom of them. Then we have a whole assortment of pint bottles. These two, this one is the newest one, and it's also got some dried residue in it, some sticky cannabis goo left over from the 1880s, where this one's pretty well cleared out. They're both from Park Davis, though. And then this one here is from Sharp and Dome, and we have two Sharp and Dome medicines. This one's a cannabis extract, where this one was a pill that was for migraines, and that's what it says right there on the front, migraines from Sharp and Dome. Then down here, Eli Lilly, one of the many Eli Lilly cannabis products there. Most of these companies are still in existence today.
I know.
That's the interesting thing.
That's fascinating that they are.
This one is about, I would say a quarter full of their little tablets, and this is for neuralgic pain from Mumford Chemists in Philadelphia. So that's the end of our antique cannabis bottles. Now we get into things you can currently buy today. Here is a hemp protein powder. You can make all sorts, anything you make with soy, you can make with hemp, only it's better for you than soy. It has a much better protein profile. This is a bottle of Pure Castile Dr. Bronner's 18-in-1 hemp peppermint soap. And I use this at home. I've got a refill bottle. These are my time. I just went to the shower tonight and grabbed this out of my shower. You can see it's almost empty. I got a big refill bottle, and I just pour it and refill these things. And then here, we've got two kinds of hemp milk. It's very, very tasty. This one is vanilla, and you can see it talks about the omega-3s and 6s down here. This is chocolate. They both have a sweetener added, but they do have an unsweetened product on the market as well for people like me who need to cut their sugar intake.
There you go.
We have a caller, though. Hello, caller. You're on the show.
Hello. Yeah, I'd like to know where to buy that milk.
You know, now, we're a public access show.
That's right.
So we can't really be real commercial. But saying that, I got this at Wild Oats, and you can get it at all kinds of different places. Oops.
Okay.
That was
a
cosmic force there. Wild Oats. That's that's where I got it.
I also have a comment.
But you can get it at just about any health food store.
Exactly.
And you should go to all your health food stores, and if they don't have it, tell them to get it.
I went to Daily Grind. They had hemp seed, which is really good.
Yeah. Whole hemp seed is when they take the crunchy outer shell off.
Yes.
Tastes like a
they
cross.
They have that there, but they didn't have the milk.
Yeah.
And
you should tell them you want it, and maybe they should put it on the shelf. There's this one's distributed here in Portland. It's made up in B.C., but it's distributed right out of Portland, Oregon, where this show's recorded.
I have a comment too. Do you really foresee the legalization or the lifting of the prohibition on the hemp?
Oh, I definitely do.
Yes.
I definitely. I've been working for it.
Like over 21, you can go down and buy it somewhere or
grow it
that's
going to happen. That's
it will.
Happen.
It will. You think it will?
I know it will. We're going to continue to work for it.
Corporations are really powerful.
Yeah.
The crowd believes this too.
Yeah.
They've got the pill industry. They have the food.
Sure. There's a lot of economic forces lined up against it, and that's the main reason we have marijuana prohibition.
And marijuana has a way of cleansing one of mind pollution.
Yeah.
Very
It
true.
raises
they don't want any of that.
baloney detector, you might say.
Anyway, thank you.
Thank you. You know, I've been working on ending adult marijuana prohibition here in Oregon since 1984 with the Oregon Marijuana Initiative petitions way back when, and we had some Oregon Cannabis Tax Act petitions that never made the ballot. We made the ballot in 1985 for a vote in 1986, but we lost overwhelmingly. It was 26% yes. pretty overwhelming defeat.
And you said then you thought it would get in your life, right around the corner. Changes were just coming. And
well, until Reagan was elected, it really looked like things were going to change.
that
a lot
was
of
a
people
scary
thought,
moment for a lot of people.
Yeah, and the Bush legacy of the Reagan Revolution continues today.
We're facing
Hopefully,
that ourselves.
we're at the very tail end of it.
I think the tide has turned.
That's my opinion, anyway.
When you look at all the states that have changed, and all the states that have recently made it legal, even the problems.
The
in
state of New
Connecticut.
York, and Elliot Spitzer, the governor there now, is saying that he wants to see legal marijuana. He's just
I'm
changed.
excited about
he
that.
flipped from being against it,
Right.
and now he's for it. The people are for it overwhelmingly. Marijuana prohibition will end in our lifetime.
I
There are
believe it
people
will.
that have been misled and miseducated about it. They don't really know the truth, but they believe these lies they've been told. And there's a truth that must be heard, and that's what this television show's about. Educating you so you can tell your friends, and they'll tell their friends that, man, look at all these medicine bottles that dude had, or the foods, or the soaps, and I really use this stuff, and it's great. And it's really, as we said, about money and the continued centralization of economic and political control. And it's the forces of evil, in my opinion, out there that continue to keep prohibition the way it is, and eventually, through hard work and education, the truth will prevail. At least that's what I believe.
Amen.
We have a film clip we're going to run. We'll be back in just a second, so stay tuned. Here they go. That was quick for the control room. So,
I hear that.
so they're
Our
getting it
gremlins
all
are
ready.
Back. All right.
Okay, here it comes, guys.
Even our gremlins
We're all
are
volunteers here, too, so hang on to your seat. Uh-oh. Well, you just never know. That's kind of scary. We're actually hearing some unusual sound. The Munchkins
It is.
in the control
gremlins.
room are complaining.
Actually, our control room has
Should
very
we
few
take
Munchkins
phone?
in it.
Nope, we've got technical difficulties, but we do have
Kill the
another
film.
caller. Hello, caller, you're on the show.
Yeah, hi, I got a question. I injured my shoulder in an auto accident, and I've been on oxycodones for about a month and a half, and that's starting to become a serious issue. So I'm wondering if I'm eligible for getting a medical marijuana card for my shoulder pain.
A month and a half isn't quite long enough to establish a history of chronic pain. That's still in the period where it could be something that, passes eventually. I mean, you've got to have something that's been around for more than a year, really.
Oh, really? It has to be more than a year.
Yeah.
Because
I mean, it depends on it. The doctors take it on a case-by-case basis. So if it's something that obviously is never going to be better, then a doctor might consider a few months to be long enough. But, it's a call for a physician, really. And it would depend on the severity of the injury and the likelihood or possibility of recovery. I mean, I've had knee surgery, and I'm able to walk. It's only recently, after 20 years, become really painful and arthritic. So,
well, the deal is that the doctor that I've been seeing, who's prescribing me the oxycodones, they're telling me that it can only get this for another couple of weeks, and then it turns.
Well,
into
I would
chronic
recommend.
pain.
I would recommend getting off of it right away. The length of time you've been on oxycodone is already far too long. And if you can get cannabis and take it orally as a means of doing that, most people can find it on the black market anyway in today's market. Then I would recommend doing that. I would not continue with the oxycodone for more than 2 weeks.
Well, let me ask you another question then, because I used to smoke marijuana, but then it got to the point where it was so strong where it started giving me serious anxiety and kind of panic attacks, kind of.
Well, that's again something that it changes from person to person, and especially in someone who might have a predisposition to schizophrenia. It might cause, because some schizophrenics find that cannabis can lead to full-blown episodes of psychotic events. Now, that's only about a third of the schizophrenic people. I'm not saying you're that person. I mean, I just don't want to, but I want to put it out there that some people, especially people who have a tendency towards schizophrenia in their family, might find that cannabis doesn't work for them or cause problems. But, again, it's primarily the THC that causes that reaction. The CBD in cannabis.
Is do you think maybe there's a certain...
It's not really the strains.
No?
It's not the strains. Like I said, a certain strain changes. It can be different if it's harvested after 6 weeks of flowering or 12 weeks of flowering or 10 weeks of flowering. The cannabis and the cannabinoids and the resin in the flowers continually matures and changes during that period. It's the CBD in the cannabis, not in any one strain, but CBD is found throughout the plant. And if you find you don't want to have the psychoactive effects of cannabis, but you do want the pain relief, you can use the leaf, which is a lot less expensive than the flowers, and get that dose of CBD.
Right.
And that's what's going to help with pain.
Well, that answers a lot of questions. I do appreciate your time.
You're welcome.
All right, bye-bye.
Thanks for your questions.
And some people would ask if it was that good at getting him paranoid, where do you get it?
Yeah. You know, and different people are different. You know, I've seen some people that had an adverse reaction with cannabis. I had a roommate that had a full schizophrenic, psychotic episode after smoking cannabis. I was the wrong roommate for this guy. There's no doubt about that. But anyway, I have seen it anecdotally that some people just can't tolerate cannabis. I've also seen people, take a few hits and they're afraid and want to be in a room by themselves. So, it doesn't happen often. No. I would say, it doesn't indicate that they have that tendency towards schizophrenia. But if they do, it could lead to a full psychotic meltdown.
Right.
And those people should not try cannabis. That's all I can say, or should stop.
No.
And so it's not for everyone, folks.
I got to say, though, in the 9 years that I worked with rock medicine and, dealt with the Grateful Dead, that's actually was our job, was to take care of anybody who came onto our hands while we were there, who needed that. I only had one person come in who was that level.
Had a problem with cannabis.
Who had a problem with cannabis. Everybody else was a lot of other things. Not as much ecstasy back then, but there were some heroin. There was PCP, crank, cocaine. Those type of drugs. Yeah.
When I was 18, I was stupid enough to try some Jimson wheat seeds, and boy, that was a mistake.
Gotcha, did it?
Yep, it was a nasty 18 hours.
That'll teach you.
Did.
Good. You don't do that anymore, do you?
It's not good for you.
No, that's just it.
It's not the
teeth
drug
will clench, and you won't ever want to break.
I was told it was the person who gave it to me didn't inform me accurately. But anyway, we do have another caller. Hello, caller. You're on the show.
Hi. I was thinking one way to maybe try and legalize it is to help the government regulate it. Sort of like a breathalyzer test or whatever when you get pulled over. I was wondering if there's any way of testing, how high someone is.
Sure, there's several ways of testing it. One of them is a swab test that can detect it in your saliva. There's a blood test. That's really only the accurate way to detect for cannabis intoxication. There is hair tests, of course, that can detect past use. But urinalysis testing, of course, detects past use but doesn't detect impairment. You can't say how recently cannabis was used in a urinalysis test. It's probably sometime in the last 30 to 60 days.
Right. So if we can come up with maybe a field test for law enforcement to
test themselves,
there are a number of companies that have been working on that. Germany's tested a few. So far, they haven't proved entirely accurate, so they're still working on that. I'm sure eventually science will find the answer.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that'll be the key to legalizing it.
Yeah, you're probably right. It'll have something to do with it.
As long as the government can regulate it, I'm sure we can get it in use for us legally.
Well, we've had a proposal that you can look at our political website, crrh.org. And by the way, crrh.org has been recently renovated, and it's a pretty exciting website. But if you go out there, you can take a look at a piece of legislation we put together, the Cannabis Tax Act, that would regulate the sale of marijuana to adults. Initially, it was set up through Oregon State liquor store system, and so that's the way that piece of legislation is written. But and there's a lot of debate whether it should go into the liquor stores, which have an existing infrastructure servicing people over the age of 21, or if it should be kept completely separate. And it's difficult to draw those fine lines, but That's one of the things that's out there. We do have a model that was developed in a series of drafts. There were actually over 150 drafts of this, and it's looked at by lawyers and experts all over the world. And maybe one of these days we'll have the funding to put it on the ballot. And if we do, otherwise I'm sure something else will be coming up out there. There was an initiative in Colorado and in Nevada last year. In Colorado, they got 42% of the vote. In Nevada, they got 44.5% of the vote to legalize the sale and regulate the sale of marijuana there. So eventually it's going to happen.
Sure, yeah, it'd be great for just a little recreational use. You know, hard to come home and be able to relax.
Yeah, it should be available for adults. There's no doubt about it. It's a lot less. It has a lot less impacts, negative impacts, than the alternative of alcoholic beverages. Not
definitely. Yeah, I've had to turn to drinking more drinks as a result of a drug test.
Yeah. You know, I have recently been down in Dr. Todd McGarria's office. He's a physician that's kind of the grandfather of medical marijuana. He passed away a couple of years ago. In the state of California, and our foundation has doctors that are down there now. Just about a month before Dr. Todd passed away, we purchased his practice from him. He knew he was going there. I didn't think he'd go so quickly. But anyway, down there, alcoholism actually qualifies for cannabis. A lot of people are able to use cannabis to get off alcohol. And in fact, some of these antique medicine bottles here say that it's to be used to help in withdrawals from alcohol, morphine, cocaine, and chloroform. I guess that was a big problem back at the turn of the century, or about 110 years ago. But it was used to get off those drugs, and it was used for delirium tremens, which is alcohol withdrawals. So that's one of the many things it's been prescribed for over the years.
Yeah, it's definitely got many uses.
Yep, sure does. It's amazing.
Well,
thanks for your call.
Time.
Yeah, thanks for your call. If you're out there and you have a question for us tonight, call us at that number on your screen. It's 503-288-4448. Do we now have that film clip ready to go? Okay, well, let's try that one more time. We got about 15 minutes to go. Let's run a few minutes of video for your...
Takes us on a journey of the bizarre, the curious origin of marijuana prohibition. Only in the 20th century did the ancient hemp plant become a frightening new drug. The Mexican slang word, marijuana, was unknown to most Americans until it began appearing in newspaper headlines early in the century. Marijuana horror stories, works of pure fiction, were staples of the sensationalistic newspapers owned by William Randolph Hearst. But even respectable papers printed outrageous tales. Although this story would be relegated to the tabloids today, it was fit to print in the distinguished New York Times on July 6, 1927. A Mexican woman and her 4 children are driven insane by marijuana, the New York Times reported. It went on to say that neighbors rushed to the house to find the entire family insane.
It is convinced that he is hopelessly and incurably insane, a condition caused by the drug marijuana to which he was addicted. It is recommended, Your Honor, that the defendant be placed in an institution for the criminally insane for the rest of his natural life. The next tragedy may be that of your daughter, or your son, or yours, or yours, or yours.
When driving down the road and the sheriff smells your load, you better make it to the woods if you can.
Although alcohol prohibition required a constitutional amendment, marijuana prohibition was brought about by a single federal law, the Marijuana Tax Act of 1937. The driving force behind this law was Harry J. Anslinger, America's first drug czar.
You better make it to the woods if you can. If you can, if you can.
Anslinger was the government's expert witness during 1937 congressional hearings on the proposed Marijuana Tax Act. As proof of marijuana's malevolence, Anslinger introduced into evidence the bogus Hearst newspaper headlines that trumpeted the violence, insanity, and death allegedly caused by marijuana.
In 1937, when the Marijuana Tax Act was established, there were no data of any sort, much less scientific, about whether this compound was harmful or not. There was just evidence it was being used by people whom we distrusted and feared, and that it was associated with lower class people.
You go back and read the record in Congress, it's amazing the lack of information. There were literally questions by members of Congress saying, what is this marijuana? Is it a narcotic or what is it? And there would be a sentence, someone would stand up and say, oh, it's the most dangerous new drug coming down the pipe.
In terms of what Congress knew in 1937, they didn't know any of that history. The only history that they were given was all these cock and bull stories about how it made people crazy.
Yep, they criminalized it based on lies and misinformation. And the way they did that is they gave it a new name. They called it marijuana instead of hemp. Right. For instance, Sam Rayburn was the Speaker of the House of Representatives, and just like Strop said, he introduced the bill and said this is about something called marijuana. Well, back on his farm in Bonham, Texas, he grew hemp, and he was wearing underwear made of hemp that day. And he criminalized something that he grew on his own farm.
Had no clue.
He had no clue that hemp was marijuana, and that's how they did it, based on lies. And it was Anslinger, who was the first head of the Bureau of Narcotics, was married to a woman whose uncle was Andrew Mellon. Now, Mellon was the Secretary of the Treasury from about 1918 to 1933, and he basically was a pawn of the oil companies, and they didn't want to compete with him, and so they made it illegal. And it also gave jobs to prohibition agents that needed new jobs, more jobs in the Narcotics Enforcement Division. So it goes.
It's an ugly history.
We have another caller, though. Hello, caller. You're on the show. Hello, caller. Are you there?
Hi. Yes, Hi. This is Geraldine Carey.
Hi, Geraldine.
Hi. I've been smoking marijuana ever since I was like 13, and I used to do like janitorial work and housekeeping. And it really bothered my back, and the only thing I can do is cure the pain is just to smoke marijuana besides taking Vicodins and all that other kind of mess. So I'm asking a question because my doctor will not prescribe it.
Well, we have doctors who will be happy to help you. If you have chronic pain and you've talked to your doctors and they're prescribing Vicodin and those kind of things, then there are a series of doctors all across the western United States that can help. And so we have a physician referral service, number of physicians that can help you. You can call that number here in the Portland area that's on your screen right now. It's 503-235-4606. There's a voicemail on there. You can leave a message. Somebody will call you back either Saturday or Monday. And that number again in Portland's 503-235-4606. You might not know it, but this show is played in a number of other cities. Up in Seattle, it runs, and in the Seattle area, we have a number of physicians up in that area as well. You can call us at 206-878-1701. That's 206-878-1701. We're also in Denver. I was in Denver this week on Tuesday and Wednesday, and we saw 65 patients up there, and we can help patients in the Denver area as well. The Denver number is there on your screen now. It's 303-403-9996. That's 303-403-9996. And finally, for people who aren't in the major metropolitan areas of the West here, if you're in Oregon, Washington, California, Hawaii, Nevada, or Colorado, call us at 1-800-723-0188. That's 1-800-723-0188. There are literally about 40 doctors across the state of California who can help, and we have doctors in all those states who would be happy to help you get a medical marijuana permit. Did that help? Oh, she's gone.
She was listening.
She's listening.
Yes.
Oh, see? There you are.
I knew it.
Thank you
had a
very
feeling.
much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Good luck.
Bye-bye. Thanks. Bye.
You're welcome.
There are a lot of people in need.
There are. There are.
It surprises me that we still have to fight for medicine. That's what the surprise is to me. But when I see a number like 16,000 people in this state or 300,000 people in California, what that tells me is there's a lot of people in pain, a lot of people with cancer, and a lot of people with some serious diseases that really need this help.
In the state of Colorado, we've had an office there for 1 year. When we moved there, they'd had the law from 2001 to 2006.
Yeah,
they'd never had more than 700 patients. Now they have over 1,400 patients. We've doubled the number of patients in the state of Colorado in 1 year, and I expect it's going to continue to double. I expect to see over 3,000 patients in Colorado before the end of the year, and by next year, maybe 7,000 or 8,000.
That was the way it was here in Oregon. When we first started, there were people who wanted to see whether the program worked or not, whether they wanted to get on it, because, you know, what if the first people all get busted? You know, I don't want to put my name out there.
Right.
Now that there is a general recognition that there's not been one single federal bust in the state of Oregon since this program has been instated. It
nor in the state of Colorado, nor in the state of Washington.
That's right.
California's only had busts focused on the dispensaries, and
Right.
some of those dispensaries are making big bucks, and so the feds are after those big bucks.
It does make a difference.
We have another caller. Hello, caller. You're on the show.
Yeah, I had a couple questions. First, for GERD or anti-reflux, which would you recommend, smoking or using the leaf oil?
You know, vaporizing and the leaf oil or capsules, I would recommend both of those, because for the nausea associated with it, you're going to want THC. Vaporization is almost pure THC. It's 90, according to studies out of England and Cambridge University, vaporization is 96% THC, 2% CBD, and 1% each of two different aromatic hydrocarbons. So I would recommend vaporization for attacks, and regular use of a pill or an oil or butter-based extract 3 times a day to make certain you don't have those attacks.
Okay. Now I missed the ratios on the crock pot. It was 1.5 hours on low, but I missed the ratios oil to leaf, and the same thing
Per
with
cup,
cooking.
I would say a half ounce to a full ounce of leaf per cup of oil. And you'd cook it there, then you'd strain the leaf out, and then use the leaf or you can throw the strained vegetable matter out after you've cooked it in the oil or butter. And then you can just use the oil or butter, because all the active ingredients are in that now.
Okay.
It'll turn green, too. So your
Okay.
oil initially will be its natural color, and then it'll turn green.
Yeah. Now, you know those blood tests you were talking about earlier? Those
Yeah.
are so inaccurate because it can give a false positive, like you just smoked it. Because like I just moved from Germany, and in Germany, if you get caught, they pull you over and they suspect, well, they'll take a blood test. But it stays in your blood for, you may not be high right then, but they'll still do the blood test and they'll take your license for a year, just because you have it in your system. So the blood tests aren't really all that accurate.
I see. Okay.
Okay.
Well,
Talk to you
thanks
later.
for that. I mean, I haven't been driving in Germany much. I got a chance to drive across the Autobahns once. It's been a few
Well,
years.
it's a lot different over there because they're more into not throwing you in jail. It's just pay a little fine and you're done with it. I was just reading the local newspaper over there. Some guy was caught right in front of a cop in a parking lot transferring 14 keys, and all that happened was a fine.
Yeah.
It was a little bit too much for personal use, they said.
Yeah, I heard about a fellow who had 3.5 kilos of hash in Amsterdam, and he got a week per kilo, and so he had to do 3 weeks in jail. But he could use his cannabis and hash while he was in jail.
Well, in the Netherlands, I got pulled over at a sobriety checkpoint, and I just so happened one was flaming. I quickly put it out because I saw the blue lights. I didn't know what it was, and opened the window on the passenger side. Just smoke is just billowing out, and they just passed the breathalyzer over to me and asked me if I had anything to drink and let me go.
That's good. Well, they know, cannabis doesn't cause people to kill each other usually.
No. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for your call. It's a great
Talk to you later.
story there. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Well, Tim has now jumped over into his band leader position, and he's ready to launch into song for us. So just want to remind our viewers out there that if you want to get involved in the movement to end adult marijuana prohibition, or you want to get a referral to a doctor find out how to restore industrial hemp, look at our website. It's hemp.org, hemp.org. We also have classes where we help medical patients learn how to grow cannabis or make medicinal grade hashish. And we have offices and referrals to doctors all over the western United States. So, and you can watch us on YouTube too. There's the number in Portland to call. It's 503-235-4606. The number up in Seattle is 206-878-1701. There it is. Good job, Tech. And the number in Denver is 303-403-9996. And finally, toll-free number, 1-800-723-0188. Thanks for watching. Tune in next week and help us restore hemp. Good night. All right, Tim. I don't want to knock my bottles over tonight.